Hello, YouTube. This is the Galley La Podcast. We are back with Chapter 1054, The Flame Emperor, with your hosts, Akainu Fanboy and Geboss. And please like the video, subscribe, do all that great stuff. We'd appreciate it. So first, we're going to start off with, we're back with at the Flower Capital, and our goat, Green Bull, is here, and he's adding more herbage into the area. And we have what's left of the scabbards confronting them, with the exception of Kinemon. And they're ready to fight. And Shinobu is the newest member, too. So, got all set up. So, G-Boss, what were your initial thoughts on just how scabbards were the first to confront him? And also just his general philosophy and his worldview, I guess you could say, with Green Bull.
So I don't know if this is Oda saying like, okay, the scabbards are actually going to accomplish something, or they're going to go out in a blaze protecting Wano country. I could read it. You might be able to read it like that, but I mean, it's kind of. I could definitely see like shades of Akainu in Ryogo Q, because he's acting just like him. Like, he's saying like, you're not even allied with the world government. You have no standing in the world. I'm gonna make an example out of you. So he's definitely giving off a lot more menacing vibe than we initially thought, because we thought he was going to kind of be here to kind of heal Wano, and but he's fighting the scabbards, and he's like, no laws would be broken if you all died here. Go ahead and try to stop me. I'll butcher thousands of your people if that's what it takes to get to Straw Hat. So
yeah.
And that's definitely an Akainu thing, like total, like extreme justice.
Yeah, so I would agree, like, the ferocity and the zeal is definitely shared with Akainu, and just the fact, like, he's really to go after them. I would say one distinction, between Green Bull's justice and Akainu's justice is Green Bull's like kind of like very focused on evolutionary hierarchy, natural selection type of stuff, where he's like, there's a natural order, submit to it, like I'm nature itself, kind of thing. Akainu is more, like they're definitely similar in the same category, but I would say Akainu's more, I just want to kill all the evil in the world. I want to kill all the pirates in the world. Like, it's not like if it's like sense of hierarchy, because you saw he kind of had some disgust with the celestial dragons. Akainu did with the whole Doflamingo thing, not being a warlord and everything, because they were getting in the way of it. While Green Bull's kind of like, no, the celestial dragons are gods. We have to like, be like reverential towards it, because that's like respecting the hierarchy in a way. While Akainu's just like, I just want to kill as many pirates as possible. That's more his like emphasis, if you will. Like, they're both like absolute justice people, but there's kind of like a distinction there, kind of like how Lucci's is like a dark justice, Like, they're all kind of like hardcore people, but they all kind of have different emphases why they're absolute justice types, if you will.
Yeah. And I also wanted to point out that that we now officially know that he's a Logia now.
Which is weird.
Yeah, it's not like an element per se, but I could kind of see. But I also, this also tends to, so I think that this means that he's awakened at this point, because he's affecting the environment around him.
Yes, and quick Naruto slide. Isn't that one of the elemental things over in Naruto? I'm pretty sure. Like,
you mean
along with like fire,
they have like style. Well, technically, wood style is a combination of earth and water.
Okay.
So it's a derivative of the main nature transformations in Naruto.
Yeah, obviously, kind of your first reaction you've seen art is like a Hashirama type of vibe, because it's like all wood, Because obviously, like nature, like there's a lot of stuff that could be included, but it seems primarily to be a wood type of thing. He does look terrible in his full zone form. He looks like the stupid seducing woods creatures,
Broccoli head looking ass.
Yeah, he doesn't even look like terrifying, but like a first reaction is like, man, he looks like a zone creature with this,
Yeah, kind of.
But I'm wondering if there's like other different types of things he can transform into, like oh wait, no, Katakuri's not a freaking.
He used to be a Logia.
He used to be a Logia, but yeah. So I think his fruit. Obviously, we saw King and Queen. It could be really destructive. We didn't really see him go crazy in this chapter, if you will. It was just like a quick clash with Yamato. The Scabbards didn't really, and they kind of got brushed aside pretty quickly. But we didn't really see him do any named attacks or anything.
Yeah. Although I think this is the quickest that we've ever seen an admiral get hit, because Yamato just comes in and smacks him with Conquerors.
Yeah, and he acknowledges he got some pain there, but Kaido got hit pretty quickly. For example, when Luffy met him, and everything like that. So, Big Mom's gotten more than her fair share of hits, even by the likes of Frankie, with his little motorcycle. So, but so I am gonna put in my anti-Yamato agenda. Again, I don't really hate Yamato. It's just I'm not thrilled about her being a crewmate. I could be convinced, but so her fruit is known as the garden deity of Wano country, right? That's her fruit. And my whole point is it always seemed weird if that's the name of her fruit, or the title at least that comes along with it, and then she's gonna join the Straw Hats and leave. And what I thought was interesting is she didn't show up with the Straw Hats to confront Green Bull. She showed up with Momo and the Scabbards.
Yeah, she ditched the whole party.
That's her main squad. Yeah, exactly, right? So it's when you introduce someone, it's she's still more a part of this group rather than that group. And you could be well, she hasn't officially joined the crew. But I think, my opinion, how this is probably going to turn out, they're going to clash a bit with Green Bull. I hope he doesn't get defeated, but I can see him not being defeated. And then he takes off, and then she's wow, even with all the natural protections with Wano and everything, it's still not sufficient. So I need to stay here to defend Wano, because there's not enough strong people. Momo's not strong enough, and the Scabbards can only do so much, because obviously they would just get cleaned off by an admiral here. So I think she may be convinced to be I'm going to stay here in Wano,
Yeah. I can see that.
But that's my initial thought, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we see Ryogoku fight Momo briefly, and Momo can't do blast breath or anything, and Momo's defending, trying to prevent him from disturbing the celebration of everyone, and he gets kind of captured by Ryogoku, and I think it's interesting that he kind of tells Yamato to stay out of it, and I think if people see an admiral of the Navy attacking their leader, that they would rally against him and kind of want to keep the borders closed even more so, and defend against from outside, and that way Luffy could kind of have Wano as his territory officially.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it potentially playing out with this, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, Yeah, that's what I generally I think there's an interesting perspective where it owed an F up with how the way he lived his life, not just being fooled by Orochi, but I think there's also this aspect where he was kind of a terrible leader and a terrible father to Momo at the same time, where Wano got destroyed because he wanted to go on an adventure. And you kind of see that theme like, well, Usopp's dad is kind of awful when you think about it in reference to Usopp, just kind of left him there. So there's always kind of that tension there, and it's kind of hard to see sometimes which side Oda takes, morally speaking, like who he thinks is in the right. But I'm wondering if Momo as Odin, quote unquote, is like, okay, I need to actually like raise my son to be strong, which is like Momo, because he's clearly not at that level yet. You could say that's the Scabbards, but maybe like Yamato is more fitting to help raise him, and they're like the two guardian deities in a way of Wano. You have the dragon, and then you have Yamato. Mm-hmm. And also Yamato can fill in where Odin failed, and that was actually defend Wano, because he failed at that, ultimately speaking. He just saved the Scabbard's life. Everybody else got screwed over because of him, Mm-hmm. And that's rough, but it's the truth when it comes to this whole thing. So I think that's kind of how maybe Oda can play off that theme a little bit more. But those are kind of my thoughts, because I think it is interesting how Oda's displaying like Momo's powerless right now, and this is their leader and he's just getting washed, So I did kind of like find that interesting, because there's no Straw Hats at all here. And obviously the Straw Hats would sense this pretty quickly, but I think Oda's making it a point. Look at how weak they are without Yamato, I think,
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, those were kind of my thoughts there. Moving on to that next section, though, we get to see, he's okay, I guess. Shanks pop up, and
it's been so long.
My initial thought was like, okay, Green Bull's done. You got the Straw Hats, you got Shanks.
Yeah.
But then the Oda kind of tripped us up for some reason. He wanted to just tease us.
So, what do you think Shanks is doing at Wano? Or he's around Wano at this point.
Maybe he's picking up Kaido's poneglyph real quick, and then he's gonna head out.
Maybe, I don't know. There's that, and I'm just thinking maybe it's like, because he had clashed with Kaido when, like before Marineford,
which we never saw.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if he has some sort of like, I don't know, like some sort of really advanced observation hockey type thing that he can kind of see what's kind of going on in other places or whatever. I don't know. But because he seems to just pop up whenever he's needed.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think it's interesting because I thought, and Oda was kind of setting up the tease that he was going to meet up with Luffy. Because they're saying like that Luffy's considered a great pirate now. And even Lucky Roo's like, oh, we should go see him. and Yasop being like, oh, I'm not ready to meet Usopp yet. I'm the worst, one of the worst stats in One Piece.
Yeah, not as bad as Oden, but still, yeah. No, yeah. So it is interesting. We're kind of kicking the can down the road. You mentioned the Bartolomeo and the cover story where he burns down the flag and everything.
Yeah.
That's cool that I know we're talking about how Oda rushes stuff, but it's cool that at least he's making these references back to little things he's doing in the past still. So I want to just give some quick credit there because I know a lot of people are scared he might rush the series, but just little things like that. I appreciate the care, and having who's who in the flashback too.
Yeah.
I know these may seem like little things, but it just kind of shows like he's not completely just burning through the series right now. You know.
Well, I found it interesting that Who's Who has the horns when he was a CP9 agent, or so that's like part of his natural, like biology.
Yeah.
So
Kind of thinking of Dillinger for a little bit, but yeah, he's not a fisherman though.
Yeah. Oh no, he's racist against fishermen.
This is true, and we are against hate at the Galley La Podcast, and we are against Who's Who and his hatred. Yes. And when it comes to, it is interesting to see like the, obviously like Beckman is just this, kind of like playing the Zoro role a little bit, and he's just like casually like, hey, is it about time to go claim the One Piece? And it's not like to defend the One Piece. And I guess it's just interesting because everybody was like, when it comes to Shanks, like, I don't know, at first we're like, okay, he's just saving it for Luffy, right? Kind of like how Roger was like, I'm not the one, I'm not Joy Boy. And obviously Shanks knows that, right? So why is he just like, hey, let's just go claim the One Piece now? Well, so it's like at one point he's like working for the world government, he's defending, and then he's like, no, now I want it. It's just all over the place,
So, does anyone... Because Shanks and Buggy didn't make it to Laugh Tale. So, do you think that Roger and everyone told them about it when they got back to the ship? Or do you think that it was kept kind of in the dark about it?
I think give us some indications without being... Obviously, he'd be the one that would know the most, potentially. Because, he already knows about, like, the Gear 5 fruit and everything, too. So, he knows a lot of the crazy mysteries, but... his motivations, I don't know.
Yeah, this is the point where... Because I've made it a promise that for the rest of the series, I'm going to not spoil myself on the spoilers. And just reading this where he's talking about going after the One Piece, it was really cool. But just the way I want to see the official translation, but hearing Shanks like, isn't it about time to go and claim it? It's kind of like he already knows how to get to it, and it's like a trivial thing for him to do.
It's a trivial thing, and also, so like, obviously he's at Kaido's place right now to get the poneglyph, and I guess you could say this is like a type of inverse speculation with Blackbeard. If Shanks is here, that means Blackbeard's not with Shanks, and Blackbeard, from what we can tell with the next couple panels, hasn't made a move yet. At least directly to the Marines, or where the Marines would notice.
Yeah. So
I'm wondering if that raises the stock of him actually going the whole cake right now.
Yeah.
That's big. He knows Big Mom's not there. Blackbeard's not showing up to Wano either, and he hasn't been directly interacting with the Marines where they would mention that he's done something to them. So that cuts off a lot of possibilities. The only place where the Marines really wouldn't have this extensive knowledge would be Whole Cake, basically. So I just kind of want to put that point out there, too.
Yeah. I mean, you could even argue that, like, maybe Blackbeard's doing something else, and Shanks would be the one to go to Whole Cake and get their poneglyph. Because that would be a major subversion of our expectations, for him to be the one to do it. But yeah, I don't know what to make of Shanks and his character.
We'll have to see the official, just to be sure, because maybe he's like, maybe it's time to go to the One Piece, not claim it. And that could change things. But going on to the goat of this chapter is Akainu. But what? I would say I was slightly disappointed with this. The I think that was kind of too predictable for me. Blaming the assassination attempt on Sabo.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So my thing was when the whole thing with when we were teased about what was happening with Sabo, like the revolutionaries were kind of like, oh, say it isn't so, Sabo, or whatever, and like Dragon was like visibly like sweating and stuff about the news. But it's like, if they're revolutionaries, why do they care if he takes down a like a person that especially if they come from the
government?
No, like the celestial dragons, because they're the like they're one of the founding 20 families. They're the ones that didn't go to Mary Joie. Yeah. So I don't know why the revolutionaries would be so upset about that, especially if it's like, because especially what we see at the end of the chapter, it's like good for them. So
yeah,
that would be my only thing about that.
Yeah, and also I assume they know who Sabo is. Like, if Luffy was like, oh, I heard a story that Chopper just murdered King Cobra, Luffy wouldn't be like, what? You know, because they know each other, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, do you not like know your right hand enough that he wouldn't just go off a king for no reason? You know?
I mean, to be fair, I don't know if Sabo knows the connection between like Vivi and Cobra and Luffy. That would be my only thing.
But like with Dragon, though, like if this is your right hand who you've known since a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would know like if he's capable of this or not.
That's true, yeah.
Like that's not where it's just like, okay, you know, and Sabo's not in danger either, you know, or in any way. And also another thing too, why is Sabo out of contact if they immediately escaped?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Because they were out of contact for a couple of days, so why couldn't they just contact the revolutionaries pretty quickly, you know? So I don't, again, it wasn't my favorite. It was kind of predictable. And this is kind of just one critique I just have with, this kind of goes back, Kaido, this isn't just an admiral thing. Just let the admirals, like, get some kills in. You know, like, you went in the Mary Joa, like, at least sacrifice a couple people, you know? You're going against the Yonko, at least, like, Kaido should have at least killed one of the scabbards, you know?
Yeah.
Right? That's just kind of, like, you could say, oh, it's just a brief clash here. And, yeah, I'd say the Kaido thing looks a lot worse in comparison to this. At the same time, like, you're going to the central thing of the world government, like, the revolutionaries, they kind of look like trash cans, you know? Like, the commanders, you know? So I'm like, just, you know, whatever, just kill off one or two of them. It's not the end of the world, you know? No one's gonna cry over that. You know?
I saw someone saying that, like, Pell would be the strongest out of everyone because he survived a nuke, which is stronger than the bombs that took out Ashura Doji, which is also stronger than the blows that Kaido was doing to Ashura Doji that didn't kill him. So
right, and Kinemon.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Also, I know you do not like the revolutionaries at all, but they got out of this like scot-free and with Kuma.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, we don't know necessarily if Bonnie had anything to do with any of this, or even if Bonnie's like responsible for Vivi's disappearance or anything. But yeah, now the revolutionaries have like Vegapunk's tech from Kuma.
Yeah.
And does it say like how I need to refresh my memory about like how Kuma's controlled? Like, is it remotely or is it done like at his body or whatever, or
It's kind of like he's like a slave, but he's kind of like quasi self-autonomous too at the same time. I feel like he has to be directed in near proximity a little bit, from the sound of it. 'Cause they like give turns to Kuma to ride on him and everything,
Yeah.
So maybe like a voice recognition they have to put in and everything, but I assume he just kind of used his fruit to get them out of there, Who knows? Maybe they're on the verge of death and he saved their asses. I just look. Let's just be real. I just don't think these revolutionary trash cans are at the level of king and queen. Okay, we just saw what Green Bull did to king and queen. Okay, let's be real. And then you have Fuji on top of all of it.
Well, literally in the next panel, it's like, I'm sure the admirals were restricted because they were fighting in the Holy Land. And then Akainu's just like, don't make excuses for them.
But he's sick of their asses, I mean, I get it. At the same time, it's like, I guess that's right. Because, like I said, just look what he did to Queen and King. Just destroy them, right? It is kind of interesting how they have at least some concern of Princess Vivi being missing, because we always kind of see the government as cold and heartless in a way. And I know one of our most valued contributors, Jimperer, hates Vivi with a passion, So, it's
to counterbalance how much I like Vivi.
Right. Well, but even Akainu has concern over Vivi, even more than Jimperer, which says something. Who's the better human? So and then we have the Navy criminal affairs unit guy, and the attempted murder of Saint Charlos, and they kind of talk about the structure even with the celestial dragons with the order there. And then we just get this idea. I don't know why they're worshiping Sabo like a god, because he hasn't. But he freed Kuma, or like what's he doing? Is he just liberating places?
It's probably just the fact that he went there and actually showed how weak the system is. Like, he could go to the main places where all the leaders were and kill one of them, so we could do our own revolutions. We saw kind of like I think it was last chapter we pointed out that Sabo was in one of the countries that were getting the news about Luffy as the emperor, but I don't know. The one thing that I also kind of find it hard to believe is like they say, you could say his influence is greater than Dragon himself. It's like, really? Like, Dragon is considered the most wanted man in the world. Like, how is Sabo getting up there in terms of influence like that just because of this one thing?
Yeah, maybe you could compare it, maybe not just as one thing, but kind of like Ace, where he kind of became notoriety and everything, and he offered the warlord position, and he's kind of taking on Ace's will in a sense where this is what Ace would be like if he was still alive. Chronologically, the story. Maybe like that's a way I kind of look at it, living on the will and stuff like that. And I think it would be interesting if he meets Yamato one day, because since there was such a close bond between them, or Tama. I think there's something Oda could do. Now, the fact that he calls him a Flame Emperor, like he's like another Yonko, I think that's just maybe just kind of trying to puff him up for sake, just so he doesn't get too far behind Luffy, I guess. But what I did find interesting at the end, though, was Akainu's like, you know what? I'm the fleet admiral in a hell of an era. I don't care where they try to hit us. We'll strike back and return fire on all points. So this is like the start of the new saga, like officially, right?
Yes.
And the end of the chapter is focused on him. It's not really focused on Blackbeard. Blackbeard wasn't mentioned the whole chapter. Or it wasn't like ending on Shanks. So I guess it's kind of establishing like, okay, now it's time for the Navy to come in. Like, they're gonna like really start cracking down, basically. And I think this may be a way potentially for Oda to be like, hey, Green Bull, we need you back here to hit the revolutionaries now since you messed up so bad. You know, like I'm pissed off with the Sabo guy, so come back right now. I don't care what you're doing. And since he's like a fanboy, he's going to be like, okay, fine, I'll do what you say in a way.
Yeah, that could definitely be. Yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah. I would. I just have one more point, because so the way that I could picture Oda writing this about Sabo or whatever, is that Sabo was framed for the murder of Cobra, which is probably, I would see that as the most likely case, and him escaping with Vivi. Like, who knows? Because Im had Vivi's picture, and was and the grocery were like, who do you want erased from history, or whatever they said. And I mean, Sabo could have interrupted that. Like, they assassinated Cobra, and they were going to assassinate Vivi, but he interrupted, and he escaped with her because also, how do people know the connection between Ace or Sabo and Luffy? Did they say that? Is that like a known thing now?
Yeah, I'd have to think back. Maybe I'm blanking.
Yeah, I don't really remember. Because the only time that they were like together was in Dressrosa.
Yeah, I think Sabo kind of announced it a little bit to Burgess. But they were brothers, right? Yeah. Maybe that's like the only way I could see that information getting out, though.
Yeah, but I mean, if Vivi would trust, I think Vivi would trust Sabo enough to go with him.
Yeah,
and that's how I kind of see that turning out. Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, I think that's potential, or she just might straight up be imprisoned by M, you know?
Yeah.
That's a possibility too, because I can't really see, or maybe St. Charlos is like defending her too. I'm sorry, not St. Charlos, St.
Maosgard. Yeah.
Maosgard, yeah. Don Quixote, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe he's defending her either. Also, so that those could be some potentials there. But this definitely does seem like both the world government and the Navy, like, they're going to be the central focus now. You know, because Kaido, Big Mom were obviously the main focus in the past saga and the Yonko saga. And now, but the Navy didn't really play much of a direct role. It was always indirectly. They would kind of pop in here and there, but that's it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
anyway. Yeah. I'll also say
thoughts.
that they're kind of pushing the revolutionaries now, more toward the forefront of the story, because in the during the Void Month, where there were no chapters, Oda was like had like stuff that was kind of like summarizing important stuff for One Piece and leading into the final saga. And one of them was like talking about the location of the last poneglyph, and one of them was like this one random thing back in like it's within the first 20 volumes of the series, and like Nami like offhand says like, oh, this country had a revolution or whatever. So I think that the final road poneglyph might be in the possession of the revolutionaries. that's just my kind of thought. And it gives it kind of weaves them into the story more, because they've been kind of to the side of the whole main plot. With like, when you think about like the main forces of the world, it was the Yonko, the Shichibukai, and the government. And like the Shichibukai are dissolved now, so there needs to be a new thing that kind of takes their place, because the Vegapunk's special science group, the SSG, I would lump them in with like the Marines and the Navy.
Yeah.
So the revolutionaries could definitely fill that third void, and I think that's what Oda's kind of setting up with this.
That was one of the factions Doflamingo brought about in the Throne Wars too. You know, that they were a potential seat to get to the Throne Wars and to get the throne and everything like that too. So
I don't remember, because it's been so long since I've even touched Dressrosa.
So yeah. Anyways, but those are closing thoughts, though. Thanks to everybody for listening. Leave a like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and we will see y'all next week for the next chapter. The Void Month is over.
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
Peace. Bye.